Hello everybody and welcome to a new video. Last time I spoke to you properly, I said I'd be back in August. Well, that time is now, and today I have your world record hot lap and track guide around Monza in Italy. So, yeah, let's get right into it. Alright, so heading on to the analysis of the lap. As you're exiting onto the start-finish straight, you want to make sure you don't touch the curb on the outside because that just slows you down. Opening DRS. And now as we head into turn 1, hard braking zone. You want to brake fairly late, but make sure to rotate the car as much as possible. Don't cut the curb on the inside like the previous games. That's not possible anymore, as far as I know. Then you want to touch the throttle just a bit to put the car more onto the right hand side, and then get onto the throttle, get onto the power early, and get a nice exit and keep the car all the way on the inside. Now heading on to probably the most difficult corner on the track. So I never thought I'd be saying this. You want to make sure you're really good with trail braking here. So you lift off quite fast. Like you want to make sure it's almost on the edge of rear locking. The more you rotate, the more chance you have of like going to the left here and getting on the power earlier and getting a better exit. So, and of course you want to make sure you cut this curb. So even though it looks really good for me here, you're gonna see I didn't quite do it perfectly and I lost about maybe 600s. So now I'm going to like post a video of what this delta is referring to. So the clip of that. You can see it's a bit faster than what I did on my actual lap. Okay, so maybe that was helpful. Then into Lasma 1, you want to turn in early and get on the power fairly early as well, but you don't want to rev out fifth gear here because I found that the rear just gets very unstable sometimes. So short shift a bit to sixth, then of course use all the track on the exit, then into Lesmo 2. Don't touch the grass on the outside, it's very easy to do. But now as you break down to fifth gear, this is very important. You want to rotate the car on this curb, then get on the power really hard after you touch it. Then run all the way to the edge of the track. You can do even more than I did actually, like maybe center the car over this curb. I think that's the ideal line, but mine was still okay enough. Now heading down to Ascari. Very satisfying corner if you get it right. So as you're braking, move to the right hand side to use the curb as much as possible. Then down to fifth gear, very close with track limits, but not quite touching these curbs. Then up to sixth, and you want to stay on this curb as much as possible. because otherwise you drift out wide, and say if you don't commit to the curb completely, you can sometimes spin. And to make it a bit easier, I tend to short shift up to seventh. So you're gonna see there. Then keep it full throttle, use all the track on the exit, and heading into the final corner, which is Parabolica. Brake, I think both can work, either early or late, but you want to make sure you hit the apex, which I don't quite do. I could do it a bit more on the right hand side there. I left some room, just nerves at the end of the lap. But the most important part is the exit. You want to get on the power really hard because the exit is quite important as you head out to the start finish line. Keep it all the way to the inside for minimum distance. And that is a lap of Monza on 18.178. And as you can see, that's P1 in the leaderboards right now by almost 4/10 of a second. So I'm really pleased with that. And you might have noticed I'm in the realistic Red Bull for this one. And that is because it's slightly faster in a straight line. And of course, Monza is the temple of speed. So I found that to be a bit faster than the normal equal car. But not sure how much. But anyway, quite satisfied. Also, I want to give a shout out to Marco. You can see him on the leaderboards. Uh, he gave me the idea to go with the realistic Red Bull and also with some setup tips. So really appreciate it. I think he actually improved even further to an 18.4 with cockpit cam. So that's really impressive as well. And I'm going to link his video on the top right. Make sure to check his channel out and support him as well. And now let's get into the setup, which is quite extreme, I must say. So starting with the wings, which is 9.0, that's quite aggressive, but I found that to be really helpful with turning, especially in the middle sector. The car was very responsive, and I was able to balance it out with some more conservative suspension settings. So I found that to be useful, and it didn't cost me a lot of straight line speed. One thing I'd say is don't run any rear wing because that's what will cost you more straight line speed, and you don't really need it for traction. I think you can sort it out with other settings in the car, like suspension or suspension geometry. So yeah, that's about it for the wings. So the differential is quite straightforward. I think anything between 55 and 60% for the on throttle works. And for the off throttle, you want to run it the lowest for just the maximum rotation mid corner. Again, fairly regular settings for the suspension geometry, right, right, left, left. For me, it's just like the best combination of traction, responsiveness, and stability. So I found it worked very well and didn't feel the need to change anything. So this is where it gets interesting. For the suspension 11.1, 11.1, 11.5. Seems like I just assigned the values randomly, but no, it has a purpose behind it. So to balance out the extremely aggressive and oversteery wing settings, we run very conservative suspension. So like all the way understeery. If you have the front suspension 11 and the rear suspension 1, that's how the handling works. So why do this and not just make everything normal? Well, I found that it makes the car really stable in long corners, like such as Ascari. If you remember on my lap, it was very good, and for me, it just helped keep the car very stable through there. So for the stiffness in the suspension and roll bar, that's why I use 11.1 and 11.1. And for the right height, 11.5, if you run it inverted like that, one, it gives you more straight line speed. And two, it makes the car better over the curbs. And three, I found that there's some slightly better rotation mid corner if you run the rear right height lower than the front right height, even though there's some more understeer when you're entering. But since we're running 9.0 wings, that doesn't end up becoming an issue. So that's how I balanced it. I know it might sound quite complicated, but for me it works, and I just kept it that way. Not a whole lot to say for the brakes, just maximum brake pressure and minimum front brake bias as always. So since the patch, in my opinion, running lowest front tire pressures is the way to go on almost all of the tracks at least. I think it just makes the car easier to turn in. And if you have lower front tire pressure than rear tire pressure, the rear end of the car just becomes more stable in my opinion. I think if you need a bit more traction, you can decrease the rear tire pressures, but I found this configuration to be fine for me. So that's about it for the setup. That's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have any suggestions or comments, make sure to let me know, and I'll see you next time.